The client comes to me and tells me that life is like a treadmill. I'm curious to know that what is being on this treadmill like, or I want to know who put the client on the treadmill, or what is the client's understanding of the treadmill word. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm trying to understand the client's metaphor, and I'm going to work with the client in the metaphor that the client brought in place. I am no one to say that being on a treadmill is good or not good, or you're getting tired, or you should not be on the treadmill, etc. I'm going to work with the client. I'm going to use the concepts of clean language, which was developed by David in the late 80s. Okay, so David says that these metaphors are very important because these metaphors come from the inner experience and existence and representation of the client. Sometimes the client will come and say, life is dark, my love is great, or my relation with my wife is very chocolatey. And I'm supposed to probe what is chocolatey according to them and not superimpose my idea of chocolatey on that. Because my definition of the metaphor is different and it is mine. And the client's understanding of the word metaphor is different, and that is the client's. There was a client who once came and told me that it's dark night. And I'm like, it's obvious the night is dark. But I really wanted to know, what does the client mean when the client says it's a dark night? Because language is also a metaphor for experience. And I really want to know, what is the metaphor meaning for the client in the client's cognitive, experiential, representational system? There's a client who came and tells me that he irritates me. I want to know how specifically she's getting irritated, or how does she decide to get irritated. Now, here I want to probe the client's expression or narrative on the contextual level or the process level, and not on the content level. Content would be to find out who is irritating her. Content would be to find out where is he irritating you. Or content would be to find out how is he related to you. But content is just a narrative and it's only gossip. And therefore, I want to go into the process of how specifically do you get irritated. Okay. Sometimes the client comes and tells me, only if my wife knew how much I'm suffering. And I'm curious to know how did he conclude that the wife doesn't know? Or what would happen if the wife knows? So I need to be specific. In language, there are two extremes we can go. One, we can be very, very specific. And that's what the meta model is about. Who, what, when, where, which. All the one-word English questions. These are probing questions. Probing is important. But when we probe, we better probe from the position of curiosity and not from the position of interrogation. Nobody likes interrogation. Nobody likes a principle on your head. So let's probe with curiosity to know more how the client has experienced it or represented it. My reason to ask, or my reason to be curious, is to know the quality of their inner landscape. And also sometimes we can be vague. The other extreme of language communication. Vague, matlab, I can say you will rise like a sun. And it's vague for interpretation. Here, this is the opposite of clean language. I am giving the client a metaphor, an open metaphor, a positive metaphor, a neutral metaphor, a everyday metaphor, so that they can interpret their meanings and they can find their answers. And a client was really stuck, and I wanted to release the client through a metaphor. And I said, you can spread your wings like that of an eagle and feel the wind beneath your wings. It's a metaphor to express flight, fright, afraid, and strength and freedom. So sometimes vagueness is important, sometimes specificity is important, and sometimes it is important to work with the client's metaphor. This is the gift of communication. This is how you play with language. Milton was a genius. Milton Erickson could use language to the best.
Okay.
Samjha na?